Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, the city in which we live. Guide us this evening as we make our decisions. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
This is the October 27th, 2020 regular meeting of the Noonan City Council. You have the minutes of the regular meeting of October the 13th, 2020 before you. I'll entertain a motion. We adopt those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion is second. We adopt the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda, we have several appointments to boards and commissions. The first one, Councilman Gion, this is Convention Center Authority replacement.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Mr. Brent Snodgrass, who has been willing to step up and serve at this very important authority, so I think he'll be a welcome addition. I had the opportunity to speak with 4 different individuals, and he came highly recommended, and these individuals I highly respect as well. But I also had a chance to sit down with him and talk, and was very impressed. He's one of those guys you talk with, you feel like you've known him for a long time, so I think he'll be a great addition. So at this time, I'd like to nominate him.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? We're not going to talk about you in front of you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for being willing to serve.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. The next is mine, and this is Urban Redevelopment Agency, and I'd like to appoint Ms. Cassie Hooks.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks. The next is Farmer Street Cemetery is mine, and I'll need that put on the next agenda. Mr. Koretko, Councilman Koretko, the next is yours, Farmer Street Cemetery.
Next agenda as well, Mr.
All right,
Mayor.
thank you. And then Councilman DeBose, Farmer Street.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dr. Cynthia A. Finney.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item, Councilman Koretko, this is Noonan Youth Activities.
Next agenda, please.
All right, thank you. And then Councilman Jones.
Yes, I'd like to put forth, Sarah is here as well, and she's taken her time. And I thank you, Sarah, for your willingness to serve, and I think she'll be a great addition. Sarah, again, has a real passion for youth, and we are really fortunate and blessed to have her to serve on this commission. So thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold, for being willing to serve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Do we have her last name?
Arnold.
Okay.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Okay, the next then and final Ethics Commission, Councilwoman Jenkins.
Next agenda, please.
All right, thank you. Okay, and then also under boards and commissions, you have at your table, at your chair, the City of Noonan Youth Activities Commission annual report. If you're for your reading pleasure as you leave this evening, we appreciate them providing that. I don't have anything this evening. Mr. Phillips, do you have anything this evening?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Under new business, to enter into an agreement with the corporate health partners for 2021. Everyone understands what this is. If you have any questions, staff is here.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. We approve the agreement as presented. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is consideration of a renewal of a rental agreement between the City of Newnan and Coweta County Genealogical Society. You have this on your agenda also. With any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We approve the renewal of the rental agreement. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Final, under new business, is consideration of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Section 5-25, demolition, removal, and relocation of structures. As you'll recall, and as the agenda says, we discussed this at our retreat and instructed staff to come back to us with this, and they have. Any questions on this?
Mr. Sears, some time ago, we had asked to also make a change in this ordinance concerning, to ensure that a building wasn't torn down. That happened probably 4 or 5 months ago, and you were going to make an amendment to ensure that that didn't happen again. Was that?
No, I believe the ordinance is pretty clear. I think in that particular situation, there was an interpretation, which we have since addressed the staff, because it was a part of the building that was built prior and part of it that was built after. So I think it's pretty clear. If you follow the ordinance, any structure that has a component that is being demolished that is now 50 years of age or rolling will appear before this board.
Right, but for some reason, staff took upon themselves to tear down a structure, so you're assuring us now that they're not going to do that again?
That is the discussion that I have had, and Mr. Sears and the building official and everyone has been involved, and you've been briefed on that situation as well, Councilmember Alexander. So I don't know what else to put in the ordinance. I believe it's pretty clear that if there is any portion of a building that's built, there will not be a demolition permit unless this body approves it.
Okay.
Again, we're changing this
All right.
ordinance from 1940 to a rolling 50 years.
I understand. We did the rolling.
Well, I think, Mr. Alexander, the thing is, we can't ensure what staff might do. We have many situations in which at times, staff has, well, not many times, but occasionally someone will issue a permit in error. So I can't ensure that whoever's issuing the permits on behalf of city manager's office or otherwise might do that in error. Now, to the extent that from staff's policy standpoint, to plaster the ordinance in front of whoever's issuing who issues permits, and they're sure that they're trained to check that, then I think we can ensure that will not happen again.
They're very aware of the situation.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Because
that's-
it was obvious that this was an old structure, and on the backside, it was a new structure, and that's how it was interpreted. But I just want to make sure,
right,
because of the phone calls I was inundated with. So,
right,
thank you.
yeah.
I have and I think I brought this up when we discussed this during the retreat as well, is a rolling 50 years, that's a lot of inventory that's going to have to come to this board specifically. So that basically means anything prior to 1970, as of now, is going to have to come to the board. There's probably a lot in the 60s that we don't necessarily, there's stuff we're not going to necessarily want to see. Is that something we may want to consider having the planning commission or somebody else review
Well,
instead?
I think before we say that, why don't we wait and see if it is a problem? I mean, not that many buildings are really demoed totally. And a lot of them have been either damaged severely by a tree or something like that, so I don't think it's a big problem to 50 years.
It's not necessarily the 50 years, it's the onerous requirements potentially could put on the a homeowner or somebody wanting to do that to their house. If a tree does fall on it, they've got to wait for us to approve it.
No, but anything that happens, they have to, but I just don't think it happens that much. There's not many tear downs and start overs. Within 50 years, I mean, the past 50 years.
Excuse me.
Okay, we entered into discussion. I don't think I had a motion.
You have a motion?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Any further discussion on this? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So we'll place that on our next agenda for a second reading. Under unfinished business, this is the second and final reading and consideration of an ordinance to amend the license fee for retail consumption dealer of distilled spirits, malt beverages, and wine. This is on here for a second and final reading. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We approve on second and final reading. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried 5-2. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing. This is a rezoning request, RZ 2020-03. Melissa Griffiths on behalf of Turnstone Group, LLC, and KM Homes for 10.120 acres located on Noonan Crossing Boulevard East. Parcel number 08650210005, 08650210011, 086502012 from CCS to RMH with conditions to RMH, condition for townhomes. This is an ordinance for consideration and rezoning. Ms. Dunham, how are you this evening?
Doing well. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
As you said, this is a request by Melissa Griffiths on behalf of the Turnstone Group. They are requesting that 10.120 acres located off Newnan Crossing Boulevard Eaves change from CCS and RMH with conditions to RMH for 98 townhouses. The tracts are located just south of the apartment tract on Newnan Crossing Boulevard East and are currently vacant. In March of 2017, the 3 tracts were rezoned as a part of an overall development plan and were shown to be developed with a grocery store, 35 townhome units, and 140 senior residences. The applicant would like to decrease the number of units and change one of the commercial tracts to residential in order to accommodate 98 townhomes. It should be noted that in 2017, there was actually what they call a transfer of density rights. So they gave you a parkland, 10 acres of parkland, and for that they were given additional units. So that's why they were allowed to do 175 units when RMH only allows 8 units per acre. As I said, the applicant would like to develop 98 townhome units on the 3 tracts. The price points would be $260,000 with approximately 1,919 square feet of heated living space. In terms of the amenities, the applicant has proffered an outdoor play area, basketball court, covered picnic area, and passive recreation with walking paths throughout the community. The residents will also have access to the link, which we just put the bridge over across I-85. The townhouses will have to be built to city standards, and I've included a copy of that in your report. Staff completed an assessment of each of the required standards, and I'm going to give a quick summary of each of those. Staff felt the use was suitable in view of the zoning and development of adjacent and nearby properties, since it's already a mixture of commercial and residential units. In addition, the future land use map shows this area as commercial mixed use, so the project does specify that they could plan for that as well. In terms of the comprehensive plan, it shows it as future land use, so it would be compatible with the comprehensive plan. Are there substantial reasons why the property cannot or should not be used as currently zoned? Staff said that the subject tracts could be used as currently zoned. However, the senior residence tract may continue to be difficult to market given the number of senior units recently or currently developed within the city limits. As you know, we've had construction of Watercrest, 74 senior units approved in Stonebridge. We've had Dominium's 202 senior units that have been approved, as well as 135 senior units at the Claiborne in Newnan Lake. So that's a lot of senior units. So that is why we felt that the change from senior units to townhouses would be acceptable. Will the proposed use cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities or services? As we said, all of the individual service providers have weighed in. That information is in your report. As with all developments, it will have impact on service provision. However, the question is whether or not it's excessive and burdensome, and in this case, all the service providers did indicate that they could address the needs of the development. So therefore, we felt that it did meet that. Is the proposed use compatible with the purpose and intent of the comp plan? The future land use map, again, shows this property as commercial mixed use, so we did feel it was compatible. Is the proposed use consistent with the purpose and intent of the proposed zoning district? The proposed use is RMH, which is a multifamily, or excuse me, a townhouse development, which would be permitted in the residential multifamily development. Is the proposed use supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the comprehensive plan? Again, staff felt that the comprehensive plan shows the area's future commercial mixed use, so that would not be impacted by additional townhouses, so we felt like it did meet that. Does the proposed use reflect a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare and the right to unrestricted use of property? As we said, the property is currently zoned for 175 additional residential units, as well as 2.7 acres of commercial development. So we felt by rezoning the property, the number of residential units will decrease to actually 98 total units, and the commercial acreage would actually be eliminated. This would result in less traffic, less impervious surface, and a larger built-in customer base for existing future commercial businesses that are going to develop on the property. There would be an impact on the school, and as it would be turning 63 senior units into regular homes, and that would mean an estimated 91 additional children for the Coweta County school system. So the school system did ask that the developer work with them to ensure that they were prepared for the additional students. And again, the city has identified this area as a commercial mixed-use corridor, so townhouses would fit with that. So we did feel that it would reflect a reasonable balance. The Planning Commission, at their September 8, 2020 meeting, held a public hearing regarding the request and voted 6-1 to recommend approval, and with the following conditions: that the project would be consistent with the plan, density, project data, amenities, proffered conditions, and architectural details as provided as part of the application. The project would consist of a maximum of 98 townhouse units, that the community would have amenities to include but not limited to outdoor playground area, basketball court, a covered picnic area, and passive recreation with walking paths throughout the community. The additional buffering and fencing will be provided to help screen the basketball court from Lower Fayetteville Road. And they did provide a picture, which you see up on the screen there. It's also been included in your packet of where they're adding in the additional buffers and so forth, and that's on the lower part. And that the townhouse elevations will be revised to meet all standards for townhouses as specified in Article 3 of the zoning ordinance. And this is the new townhouse look that they provided that you see up on the screen. And that is the report of the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. It's an opportunity for the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Melissa Griffiths with Horn & Griffiths, 32 South Court Square, Noonan, Georgia, 30263. I'm here tonight with Adam Goldstein from Turnstone Group, Doug Straw with KM Homes, and we've got Andrew Blakely here, who is with engineering. Turnstone is the applicant and current owner, and KM Homes will be the developer. I want to make sure that all of our rezoning application and materials, including the proffered conditions, our standard constitutional letter, our development summary report, including the additional ones that have been provided since Planning Commission with the edits based on what Planning Commission requested, are made part of tonight's record. This is another project that we started in COVID, and so the staff went really out of their way in trying to accommodate meeting with us, doing virtual meetings and conversations and all to get our application in, and we really appreciate their time. This would be a 77-unit decrease in the rezoning request. All of the conditions, as Ms. Donovan read off, are acceptable. Like she said, condition number 5 has already been complied with by the pictures that are shown. It's Exhibit B on the ordinance that Mr. Sears has drafted. I'm going to let Adam Goldstein and Doug Straw go through the project. We're happy to answer any questions, and if I could save time for rebuttal if necessary. Thank you.
My name is Adam Goldstein. I'm with Turnstone Group, 1170 Peachtree Road, Atlanta, Georgia. As Melissa mentioned, we appreciate your time and letting us come before you to discuss this project. So, as you know, obviously this project has been in your sights for several years. I was not at Turnstone when this was originally rezoned a few years ago. However, I know some of the angst that this project has caused, but I do want to let you know, we've tried to get the retail, we've tried to get restaurants, we had Lidl here, and they backed out on this site as well as a number of sites in Georgia. And so, when they did that, we obviously had to figure out what we wanted to do with this site. It sat vacant for several years. We had it listed with a couple different brokers. And it's been listed for 8 years, which is about the time we bought it back in December of 2012. And so we've gotten some other offers, and I can go through those with you. We've gotten offers from gas stations, from car washes, but that just wasn't what we thought we wanted to see there, and certainly not what we thought you guys wanted to see there. And so, obviously you guys are listed as a city of homes. That's your moniker, and so we thought that affordable housing was going to be something that you guys were looking to bring into the city. Not affordable housing from the stance, affordable in the sense that it's within a price point that a lot of people in the city can afford. And so we thought having a townhome product would be a great property here. And so we're coming to work with you today on a new vision for Newnan Crossing to make this a success for you guys and us. And just so you can see a little bit of background, parcel D is a restaurant parcel there. That parcel we actually sold. It's another group that bought it from us a few years ago. Right now he's just land banking it, so he doesn't have anything on that site right now. but we would envision a restaurant would eventually be there, once the development got built out. Parcel F, Freddy's, they recently purchased that property from us a few months ago. And then Parcel E is a restaurant pad as well. And right now, there's nothing on it right now. It's listed for sale. We've gotten a couple folks interested, but no real offers yet. And so, like I mentioned, we have had this listed for 8 years. Parcel A, which is where you see down here, that actually has had some interest, like I mentioned, from Jiffy Lube type establishments, as well as Dollar General. We turned both those down because we just didn't think that was what we were envisioning for the site. And we already have a gas station that's there at the corner. We never owned that parcel, so that was not us. The car wash is under contract, and that's supposed to close shortly. And the Waffle House is already there, and then, like I mentioned, Parcel D. And so what we're trying to do, obviously, is take Parcel G and H, what you see here in A, and combine them into the 98 units. And so, as was mentioned before, we're trying to get a reduction of units from the 175 to 98. And so we think it'll reduce traffic as well with that reduction. And so, like I mentioned earlier, having a product that's, going to start in the mid 200s, we think is a good price point to get a lot of demand. And so, single family homes, obviously 3s, 4s, is out of a lot of people's price points. And you guys already have enough multifamily, so we thought this was, a great happy medium to bring people into the city at a price point that, will sell and then also add to your tax basis as well. And to actually discuss, the townhome product, we have Doug Strahl here. Doug's with KM Homes. We've worked with Doug's on several projects, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Doug has been a great partner with us. He builds a great product. And so we know that what Doug is going to build, people will want to live in. We've worked with him, like I mentioned, on several developments. And then also, we are the lot developers, so in essence, how this would work. We would, if this got approved, we would obviously go spend the money on the infrastructure work, and then we would be selling lots to Doug, and then Doug and his team would then sell them to the homeowner, the end user. And so it's not a rental, for rent property, it's for sale, fee simple. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Doug.
Quick question.
Yes.
You said Parcel F was what?
Parcel F is Freddy's. Freddy's restaurant, it's like burger, shakes, custard.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for seeing us this evening. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm Doug Strahl with KM Homes, 5780 Windward Parkway, Alpharetta, Georgia. Real briefly, just a little bit about KM Homes. We're a privately held home building company. The family has over 64 years of history within the home building industry. We're located just north of the city in Alpharetta, Georgia. Everything we do is in-house. We have in-house design, in-house development. Our construction management is all in-house, as well as our sales. And to kind of reiterate that, or what I think is an important point that Adam said, is that we are a for-sale builder, so we don't have any type of a lease program, no type of a rental program, or anything like that. We're selling to the end user. Currently, we have 10 active communities within the Atlanta MSA, and 2 of which are doing the same product that we're actually planning on doing at this site. I think I talked about this right here. The site plan that we have is a reduction of the 77 units. I'll go through that again. The community amenities that were proposed for this plan, passive community walking trails throughout, the covered community picnic pavilion, pocket parks and green space areas throughout the community, an outdoor playground, and also the basketball and sports court. The product we have is called an Eaves 4 plan. It's just over 1,900 square feet. It's 3-bedroom, 3.5 baths, all with 2-car private garages. As was mentioned earlier, so this is the product renderings. Some of the feedback that we got from the Planning Commission was on the end elevations, so we actually redid those. We've added windows to the end elevations, shutters, as well as a brick water table, just to create some aesthetics to the end units as well. This is a similar product, or actually the same product we're building actually currently right now in Princeton Village, which is in College Park, just north of here. One of the things about the site plan for this product line, it's all rear-loaded product, which really creates for the aesthetics of the overall neighborhood. So all the parcels that Adam was talking about, the vantage point from all those areas there will be looking at the front of the units. All of the garages are on the back side through private alleyways. So not only from the parcels out front there, as well as the main thoroughfare through the community, but even the parcels coming into the neighborhood creates a nice aesthetic as driving into the neighborhood that you're not looking at garages or garbage cans or cars sitting out. You're seeing the front facade of all these units. All the streets will be public streets there that will be conveyed over to the city of Newnan upon completion. A little bit about the site plan itself. We've got 3 points, and I forgot to point here, but we've got 3 points of egress in here, 2 of which are internal within the site on this access road that is being extended right now. And then one right here, which is an existing curb cut on the lower Fayetteville Road. That is a right in, right out. The other 2 are both for both egress and getting in and getting out. Okay, and you can see that right there. So this is the existing curb cut that's in. I think this road is being extended right now. So that will be the piece that's on the lower Fayetteville Road. The other piece that came up in the planning commission was the proximity of the court to lower Fayetteville Road. We want to go ahead and show this, that the existing foliage right there in the right-of-way is already in place. That will not be touched. That's part of the right-of-way. The amenity itself is just under 52 feet from the property line and 132 feet from lower Fayetteville Road. Also, our plans are to put in a fencing along here within our property line, and then to go ahead and put a lot of plantings in there, just for a nice aesthetic from both sides of it, but also make sure we have security if any balls go off the court there, that nothing goes onto lower Fayetteville Road. We're excited about this project, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the site, about the plans themselves.
Okay, I have a couple. One, you've got the picture up there, so let's talk about the, is that just a basketball court? You call it an all-sports court. Is it, which is it?
It'll be, it's a design, it's for multiple sports. You can play basketball on it, you can play other sports on there. We'll actually have the line set up there so you can play other sports on there. So they can do a half-court basketball, they can play dodgeball, some other things on there, but it'll really be dedicated as a basketball court.
I mean, do you think, I mean, what you see in your other developments, do you think that type of court is used heavily, or would something different?
Actually, the few places we've put it in there, it does get used, and we found that it gets used, particularly in a situation like this where there's probably going to be some more kids. It's going to get used more than a tennis court or things of that nature. So it typically tends to be a pretty good active area for kids within the community.
Okay. All right. More importantly to me, we just talked about a right-in, right-out on Lower Fayetteville Road.
Yes, sir.
And need to address engineering on this too. We've had right-in, right-out situations on Lower Fayetteville Road where people just insist on turning left. I mean, they're just going to turn left. I don't care whether it's a right-in or right-out. They don't care. The stacking situation already, at some points of the day, where you are right there and going back over that bridge is horrendous. So I need to know that that right-in, right-out is going to be engineered in such a way that it's not going to allow someone to do a left turn. And I don't know who's here tonight that is going to tell me that the city is going to come up with engineering that these folks are going to agree to, but I'm going to ask them to condition this on agreeing to whatever those engineering conditions are that we come up with. So we're not going to sit here tonight and figure it out. But there's some right-in, right-out stuff going on right now that you just cannot turn left into.
I mean, we all know, everybody kind of giggled when you said that because we have all seen it, right?
Right, sure.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see a little 6-inch raised thing. But again, I'm not an engineer, but what I'm going to ask Ms. Griffiths, if she can, her attention up this way, is to get the folks who are doing this to agree to whatever condition. And I know that's an open-ended thing.
Well, because we've worked with staff, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Clark's office didn't have any additional conditions, so I'm not really sure what the city would be looking at. I know the applicant will be more than happy to discuss whatever that might be. I just can't let them, an open-ended, not knowing what that is. So do you want Mr. Clark to respond
Is
to.
Mr. Clark here?
Yes, sir.
Well,
I just didn't
I'm
want
not
to.
sure that Mr. Clark tonight can come up with the conditions that we're.
Right.
That we're gonna agree to.
Yes, sir.
But I can't sit here and say that your folks are gonna consider what we come up with.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna need to come up with something before I can vote on this.
Yes, sir.
Because it's just awful and can get only worse. If people who are living in there don't want to go down to the left turn lane
Yes, sir.
at Newnan Crossing to turn left to go back around to their house, and they're coming from town, and they're gonna sit there and block everybody that's going east on Lower Fayette.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Let Mr. He stood up first. Let Mr. Phillips.
You're right, we're not gonna sit here and engineer this tonight, and
You're
I know that we have made a lot of attempts over the years by expanding those little diamond islands, by putting bollards, by putting posts, and obviously you know what that's resulted in over the years. About the only thing that we've ever has really seen work is when there's something in the actual median of, for example, Lower Fayetteville Road, that would prohibit the movement, because if they could start the movement, they're going to find a way in. So what I was wanting to ask Mr. Clark, not to give the engineering in detail tonight, but if I'm not mistaken, I think there is a gore area that is in between, in the middle of Lower Fayetteville Road, that separates those two right in and outs that you see on the north and the south.
Right.
And if a raised island in that in replace of the gore on Lower Fayetteville Road may be the solution.
It would be a median that would prevent the left turn
Yes.
movement.
It's about the only thing that would work.
Keep in mind, too, that we're in the process of redesigning Lower Fayetteville Road, and that's down the road a few years, but
This is coming way before that.
that's correct.
Right there. Could that gore somehow be concrete, then all of a sudden that would be your,
Could be.
that's what we're,
So are you saying we put that, I'm not following.
what is in yellow is called a gore.
Okay.
Do a raised median. that
Do a raised median there
On the yellow.
on the yellow, basically.
Okay.
That's kind of what the solution would be.
We can't have multiple conversations. Mr. Sears, recognize.
And of course, we have, that's where your additional stacking takes place on the left turn. And we have had, of course, it's illegal to be in the gore. And we have had officers make cases, but it's very difficult at high volume traffic time for the officers to go out there and make a case. Sure. But that's what happens in that gore. So if you do put the raised gore in there, that will eliminate that additional stacking that's taking place illegally in the gore.
It's causing trouble anyway.
Pardon?
It's causing an issue
It's
anyway.
causing trouble anyway.
That's right. Okay.
The applicant and developer would be happy to provide the gore that Mr. Phillips described.
Raised meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, the word I'm looking for instead of happy is agreed.
Agreed. Agreed to add that as an additional proffered condition with Mr. Phillips' wording.
All right. That's my question.
The only thing I want to add is when you say raise, Mr. Sears, when it's a raised gore, how high are you raising it? You know, you raise that thing 6 inches, and it's not going to do much good.
6 inches, and that they have to have sort of a mountable curve on it so that you don't fall.
It'll be in a way, it won't be something you want to drive over.
Okay.
But at a point in time, you can't raise it so far because of vision and everything else.
That's right.
And
No.
you can't stop people doing everything. I mean,
That's
you're
right.
just gonna do it.
Thank you.
Well, it certainly has to be a deterrent, and all I can say is I ditto everything the mayor said. Hey, spot on.
Okay. Any other questions of the builder? Mr.
Yes,
President?
I have a concern and just need clarification as to the amount of parking for guests that come to visit folks in these townhouses. I didn't see an extra field or anything. Maybe you could explain that to us.
Sure. Yeah, all the townhouse units themselves are 2-car garage. They also have a 2-car garage with driveway on there, so each townhouse unit could accommodate 4 cars worth of parking to have them off the streets there. We do have some additional parking that's at the amenity area, but it is somewhat limited. But typically, we've set this up that with 4 cars that, each one of the townhouses, it should be adequate, other than times when somebobody's having maybe an event or a party.
About how deep would that guest parking be, the extra 2 spaces?
It's, I don't know the exact dimension, but I know it's enough to get the cars off of the, out of the
alley?
sidewalk.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Walking paths, can you show me on that drawing where you're talking about walking paths?
Sure, it's fairly faint on this illustration right here, but it actually ties in between all the units. There's some roundabouts that are in there as well. They'll actually have some benches and some gathering areas for folks that are in there. But essentially gives access throughout the community to the amenity area through walking paths.
Thank you.
I had a couple questions. Look, talking about the recreation and the amenities there, it doesn't look like it's for 96 units, or I think it was 96, right? Not a whole lot of recreational amenities. 1 basketball court, anyways. Seems a little short on that. The other thing is is there going to be something in the like covenant restrictions for the number of rentals that can be in there?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that
Is
point
that
yet. But
okay?
Sure, that's a consideration.
I know that's something that kind of constantly comes up in the covenanted type communities.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then my other question was, I'm concerned about the schools, because they have addressed that. The mayor has touched on that as well. The roads, looking at the layout and the plan, you said these are going to be public roads. Some of them almost look like alleyways because it's just a section between the driveways.
That's correct. So, everything will be to building codes are in there. These are actually labeled as alleyways, which is just really the access point to the back of the units there, but everything will be to public road standards.
So that will be turned over to the city,
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
even though it's an alleyway.
Yes, sir. Maybe it's the wrong terminology for the alleyway.
Typically, we'll take the street portion of it, but the alleyways we don't take. They still have to maintain that.
Okay, well, now, he just said he was going to ask for those to be taken. Which is it?
I wasn't aware that there were any public streets proposed,
If you'll come forward.
that these were proposed as public streets, because the other part of the development's all private streets, so, but if it's a public street, it'll be built to public standards.
And that's technically the townhouse ordinance requirement.
That's how it's designed.
Right.
And that's
Fine.
Looks to me like his alleys are the same width of the other streets, so technically it's a street. Typically, what we refer to and not accept in alleys is they're 12-foot wide, single lane.
Right, and they're the responsibility of the HOA.
That is correct.
And like
Now,
it's
if they're built to city standards, just because he's labeled it an alley, it's a street.
I think he mislabeled it. It is
Yeah.
a street, it is not an alley.
Yeah.
Okay.
and that will have the usual $2 million bond, as we discussed on our last.
It's got your standard bond part of the
Yeah.
ordinance. It's not a set fee.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a 2-year bond.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, have you got another?
Nope. That's
Okay.
it.
Let's extend the conversation just a little bit on the covenants and restrictions. In your other developments that you do you limit the number of rental units that you can sell?
We have a variety of different ones that are quite different neighborhoods. So, yes, some of them have them, some have no covenants in, some have a 25% restriction, some have a little higher than that.
Would you be willing to tell us tonight that you would include that limitation?
Yeah. we could
At
get
what percentage?
that. Say no more than 20%.
Okay.
20%, really?
Yeah.
That could also be added, that could also be added as a proffered condition as well, Mr.
It
Mayor.
was in the property condition.
No, it was not. I'm saying it can be added.
Okay.
So that's fine. We can add
Thank
that to the ordinance. Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions from council on this?
Just for, you said
Did-
20%?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kricko, did you want him to show you the other, the playground area and all that in your very first question, or were you
I was looking at the maps as best I could tell. I see the playground, or the basketball court.
There's-
The playground was just kind of hard to see on that map.
I would probably have to say in the builder's defense, so, there's developments in the city of Newnan that have way higher price points that have 0 amenities in there. So I'm less concerned about the amenities as some of the other factors.
what we typically find is that kids are gonna play in the open green space anyhow within the area there, that the ball field is there, so, I think I forget what the total dimension is there, but between the playground, there is a gathering area, which is the covered pavilion, the basketball court, but then also the green space surrounding it.
Okay.
And this is,
Right. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is an opportunity for anyone who's opposed to this application for the rezoning request of the Turnstone Group and K and Homes to come forward. If there's anyone in opposition, this is your opportunity to come forward and speak. Anyone in opposition? Okay, seeing no one, thought you were going to come forward. Okay, so are you in opposition to this, or do you just want to speak?
I'm a little bit of both. In opposition of the price point.
You'll need to come forward and state your name.
My name is Spencer Lewis. Yeah, my opposition would just be the overall price point of the homes. There's plenty of developments in this area that are in that price point. One of the things that Newnan lacks is affordable housing, in the price, in slightly lower price points. So that would just be my opposition.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay, anyone else in opposition? Okay, I will close the public hearing at this time, unless Ms. Griffiths has any rebuttal.
No,
Thank you. Close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion on accepting the recommendation from the planning commission.
Make a motion to accept the planning commission's recommendation.
Motion and second, we accept the recommendation from the planning commission. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And then on a motion on the rezoning itself with Mr. Sears.
All right, I need to qualify these conditions to make sure that these additional conditions.
I was just about to do that.
So if I could read them before we make a motion.
You're going to read all the conditions, or just the ones we talked about
Just the
this
ones
evening?
we've talked about.
Evening, yeah, so go ahead.
All right. Applicant developer agrees to engineer and construct a raised median in the area of the existing yellow painted goer in the center of Lower Fayetteville Road at the location of the existing right-in, right-out located on the north side of Lower Fayetteville Road, west of the intersection of Lower Fayetteville Road and Newnan Crossing Boulevard. Is that what it is? Yes. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right. And then the next condition is that no more than 20% of the units will be subject to rental. Is that?
Correct.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'll extend that to say that the covenants and restrictions will include.
All right, the covenants
Covenants.
and restrictions will provide.
Yeah, no more than 20% rental. Yes, sir.
Is that everything from everyone? Okay. You have those conditions. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the project with Turnstone on the, with including the proffered conditions.
Motion second, we approve with the conditions Mr. Sears spoke of tonight, and of course with the conditions that came to us from the planning commission. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And then to adopt the ordinance, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, we adopt the ordinance as presented with the proffered conditions. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is,
Including the two new ones.
pardon me, including the two new ones.
Correct.
That's right. This is, next item is also a public hearing. This is a rezoning request, RZ 2020-04. Melissa Griffiths on behalf of the Turnstone Group LLC for 2.70 acres located on Diplomat Parkway, tax parcel 09850520001 from CGN to CHV, condition for climate control storage units and the consideration of the ordinance. Ms. Dunham, how are you this evening?
Doing well.
Good.
Back again. So this tract is located behind the Woodspring Suites Hotel that is currently under construction and abuts the Highlands at Noonan Crossing subdivision. The tract is within the QDC overlay and the I-85 building height overlay district, so that would allow building to be built up to 85 feet. The 850-unit self-storage facilities would be limited to that specific use and would have to meet all the zoning requirements which are listed in the report. The facility will be 96,000 square feet gross with 70,000 rentable. There will be no outdoor storage or long-term parking. The facility will have a 1,200 square foot office with anticipated hours running from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tenant access to the facilities would be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Before or after hours access will be limited by a key fob and a keypad access that only works during those times. The applicant has provided building elevations representative of the facility that they plan to build, and those are included in your packet. Staff has completed an assessment of each of the 8 required standards. I'm also going to give a quick summary of these. So we said while there are several commercial tracts fronting on Diplomat Parkway, the subject property also abuts 2 residential uses, apartments and single-family neighborhood along the side and rear. Typically, CHV uses buffer industrial developments from either commercial or multifamily, and in this case, the CHV is being limited to self-storage units only with no outdoor storage or long-term parking, and the units would be in a single structure and will resemble an office building, as you can see up on the screen. It should also be noted that the Highlands HOA agent provided a letter stating that they felt it would be in their best interest to support this rezoning, as it means less traffic, as well as no windows from hotels or so forth overlooking their homes. And the applicant is willing to proffer that the building height would be limited to 40 feet, which is 45 feet less than what would be allowable in that particular area. Therefore, staff felt it was suitable in view of the zoning and development of adjacent and nearby properties. Adverse impact on adjacent or nearby property would be minimal. The greatest impact would be potential truck traffic and noise generated by the renters of the storage units. However, access will be limited to certain hours and controlled with before and after entry. And structure and the required plantings could also buffer some of the noise from the interstate, which we actually get complaints on that from the Highlands as well. In terms of the traffic, the units are predicted to generate around 240 trips per day, which is much less than the majority uses that could be built on that site. For example, a 100-unit hotel would have 800 plus trips. A 10,000 square foot restaurant would generate 900 plus trips. So could it be used as currently zoned? We said yes, it could. There are several commercial uses in the area, and another commercial use would be appropriate. Would the project cause excessive or burdensome use of public facilities? Again, after reviewing all responses, staff determined the project will have an impact on public services, but it wouldn't be excessive or burdensome. We did include the call volumes for fire and police in your report. The police averaged roughly 1 call per month over a 2-year period, and fire received 9 calls for that same period. Newnan Utilities indicated that they could serve the property, and the engineering department report showed 240 total trips per average weekday being generated. And the school system would not be impacted by indoor climate storage units. In terms of the comprehensive plan, the future land use map shows this as future commercial mixed use. With this being a single standalone use and not part of an overall master plan, staff felt that it would be compatible with the commercial future land use category, as it doesn't have any mixture of uses. Self-storage units are allowed in the CHB district, so therefore staff felt that the development would be consistent with the purpose and intent of the proposed zoning. Would the proposed use be supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the comp plan? Again, the comp plan was changed in 2016 and gave the property a commercial mixed-use designation. And again, rezoning for self-storage units alone would not be consistent. Staff does feel that the project shows a reasonable balance between the promotion of public health, safety, morality, or general welfare, and the right to unrestricted use of property. Now, again, while CHV zones are not typically located by single families, in this case, the Highlands HOA is supporting the request. Again, they felt it would generate less traffic. They didn't want people being able to look out windows into their backyards and into their homes. And again, they're willing to limit the height to 40 feet, which is allowed to go up to 85. So in summary, staff found that the development met 5 of the 8 standards. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing at the September 8, 2020 meeting, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval with the following condition: that the use should be limited to indoor climate-controlled storage units only and will be consistent with all plans, profiles, elevations, pictures, and other demonstrative materials supported as part of the application. There would be no outdoor storage or long-term parking allowed, that the building height would be limited to 40 feet, and that the subdivision of the tract of land would not create a flag lot. As you can see how they originally provided it, it did. They've actually come back and provided a new plat that would not create a flag lot. And that's the report from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Doe. Okay, this is the opportunity for the applicant to come forward and state your case.
Good evening again. Melissa Griffiths with Turnstone Group, and again, Adam Goldstein is here tonight on this. The HOA letter is attached. They did give the agency that represents them permission to file. At the Planning Commission meeting, we actually had some of the homeowners that came in support. They did not stand up at the podium and say their name and address that they were in the support, but they sat in the audience and nodded along that they were in support. The applicant is fine with the conditions that were proffered and the ones that Ms. Donovan just read off. I'm going to let Mr. Goldstein go through the project, and if y'all have any questions, we're happy to answer. And again, I'd like to reserve time for rebuttal if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you again for letting me speak in front of you on the storage facility. So we're here obviously to get part of parcel N. It's zoned commercial. We're here to get it's actually 3.2 acres. The 2.7 was previously, but because we had created the flag lot, we needed to extend the road frontage a little bit. So now it's going to be 3.19 acres. To allow it to be zoned industrial, to allow self-storage to be built. This hotel that you see behind it, that's actually our project as well. And so it's the top hotel there, and that's under construction right now. Thank you. And so this is under construction right now, and this is as of right. And so, obviously we didn't have to come before you to get this developed. There's been other hotels that have been interested in putting self-storage here and putting hotel here, putting hotel here. But just, we kind of put ourselves in the homeowner's shoes for a second and said, would we want a 4 or 5 story hotel looking in our backyard? And the answer was no. And so obviously we, went back to the drawing board and said, okay, well, what can we do here that allows us to use our land and then still, is a good neighbor to these guys in the back. And we thought self-storage was going to be the best option. One, because there's no windows right here, so there's nobody that's going to be looking from their hotel room into these people's backyards. And the other aspect is we then reached out to the HOA, and we actually met on site on the hotel site here with Trish Oldinger. She's a member of the HOA board. We met with her and her husband. We walked the site and just showed them what our plan was and what we wanted to do. And after they saw, the hotel that was being developed, and in the past, I'll take a step back too. This project is obviously part of larger Newnan Crossing. It was bought 8 years ago. It's been listed for sale for 8 years. The only interest that we've had has been some RV dealerships and car dealerships. And so obviously thinking, as far as these homeowners too, that would not be something that I would want in my backyard. And so we, declined the car dealerships, declined the RV dealerships. They've come back around a little bit, but obviously with this process, we didn't want to entertain that, and we still don't. But again, that is allowed as of right, and so we explained that to the HOA and explained to them what could be built, and they thought it was in their best interest to allow self-storage, just for all these reasons that I just mentioned. Self-storage in general is a good neighbor. There's very limited traffic. You're looking at maybe 10, 12 cars a day that are coming in here. There's virtually no noise, no dumpsters, and so, no windows as well. No dumpsters means no rodents, so that's obviously a plus as well. And, just as far as who's going to manage it for us, CubeSmart is going to manage it for us. They're a publicly traded REIT. They own over 600 facilities. They manage over 600 facilities for people like us. And so they're going to manage it from a Class A standpoint, from an operating standpoint, management standpoint, as far as how it's going to be landscaped. You see, it's going to be professionally landscaped and maintained, to a Class A facility. And as you can see, this building, it looks really more like an office building. And so there's no, there's no outdoor storage allowed. It's just going to be, the office is going to be right here. And then so people will be able to enter the facility right here. And then on the back side as well, it's going to look just like this. And so those are going to be sliding doors. It's going to open. People will, almost like a bellhop at a hotel, you'll be able to take, one of those things that you see maybe at a hotel or even at Lowe's to load all their stuff up, enter into the facility this way, and you could also enter here and, get to their unit that way. Elevators as well to get up, up to the units as well. And then as far as, tax revenue, obviously, I think it'll add to the tax basis here, paying at least 50, 60 grand in annual property taxes, and then, adding 3 to 4 jobs as well, plus all the construction jobs that will occur here as well. And so I'll keep it brief, and with that, answer questions, because I'm sure you'll have
Council
some.
have questions?
Actually, I do. The hotel that you're building there is a Wood Spring Suites.
Correct.
I don't know what kind of clientele they cater to. Is that, a lot of hotels that have storage units close by seem to cater to the long-term construction employees using that kind, is that? Again, keeping in consideration the homeowners right behind that.
Yeah, and so Wood Springs is part of the Choice Hotel brands. Choice is a publicly traded company as well. And the Wood Spring flag is an extended stay product that they have. It's obviously, it's a higher end extended stay, so it's not Motel 6 or Motel 8. It is, kind of at the level above that. And so, yes, there are people that do stay. But what when we got a feasibility report here, most of the people that we thought or that they anticipated to stay here were actually going to be people that were going to be treated at the cancer center. And so, yes, there could be some construction workers, but a lot of it's going to be, family and even people, that are here kind of staying with their family that are being treated at the cancer center. And, nurses, doctors, things like that. The other opportunity too, with what Newnan is trying to do, if the baseball park, if, anything like that happens as well, there could be college baseball teams staying there, for an extended period of time as well. So, to answer your question, yes, it could be construction workers, but I wouldn't say that's going to be the majority of the people staying in this facility, in the hotel facility.
Any other questions? Anyone? Okay, thank you very much. This is an opportunity for anyone opposed to this rezoning request to come forward and speak. It's your opportunity to come speak if you're opposed to the rezoning request. Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to ask.
Actually, I do have one more question.
Yeah.
If I can throw that in there. Looking at that picture there, it looks like about 5 of the homeowners that abut it, are tangential to that property. Are those 5 homeowners, 5, 6 homeowners, are they okay with it specifically, again, in your backyard?
And so one of the requirements that we did have to do was to mail out letters to homeowners that were within a certain amount of feet, I think 200 feet from us. 250 feet, yeah. And so we sent out, letters to those people. The city sent out, okay. And I'm not aware that there's been any feedback, negative or any questions. I haven't received any calls or any emails about it. And I know from an HOA standpoint, I think they sent it out. My understanding is they sent it out to the neighborhood, in an email or however they communicate, and, didn't get any negative feedback, or if they did, it wasn't conveyed to me.
Okay.
And we sent out letters to all adjacent property owners within 250 feet, not only for this public hearing, but also for planning commission. And all we did receive was the HOA letter.
Okay, thank you, Ms. John. Okay, and we'll close the public hearing at this time and ask if there's a motion and a second for the report and recommendation from the planning commission.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second to accept the report and planning and recommendation from the planning commission. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next, is there a motion on the rezoning request?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We approve the rezoning request with the proper conditions that came from the Planning Commission. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ordinance includes all the proper conditions. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it very much. The next item on the agenda tonight is to report the state of conditions and consideration of a drainage complaint at 29 Dominic Street. You have this in your agenda, and staff is here tonight to answer any questions. We have been here before. Mr. Clark, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
And so we'll ask Mr. Clark to give a report here.
Mayor and council, this would be a continuation of our discussion from a couple of meetings ago to bring you up to speed on the request of the property owner at 29 Dominic Street, who is here tonight, for relief from the drainage ditch that runs between her house and the adjacent house, and from Tuxedo to Dominic Street. And I brought you up to speed where we had put it out to design to reroute the water. I also mentioned that the city had made recommended improvements downstream. We'd increase the size of the pipes downstream of the ditch. And then the last thing was that council asked us to go back and make sure that the design that we had was feasible and still appropriate. And we concluded that it was. And you will recall the cost estimate at that time was $358,000. It was back in 2015, so we would probably need to update that if you were interested in going that route. But that's where we are now.
Okay. Council, I guess most of the folks on council understand the history that we had several years ago with the attempt to put into place a stormwater management ordinance and stormwater management system that would have allowed for taxation, I guess, or fee system that would
User
have,
fees.
Created funds for, these types of public projects. We didn't do that. I'm going to ask Mr. Phillips to kind of give us an idea of what we did in lieu of that and how it applies to this situation, if it does at all.
Yeah, we went through, spent a lot of time, money, and effort reviewing the stormwater utility program, as Mr. Clark said, a user fee. If you remember, and I don't want to get into the details, we went it actually determined the amount of pervious surface and impervious surface on every single lot in the city of Noonan to establish the user fee. It was a very exhaustive process, but again, this body elected not to go forward with that implementation. And instead, this body adopted an extent of service policy. I think we've had our extent of service policy in play now.
A couple of years.
Mr. Clark, 2 or 3 years. And what the extent of service policy was intended to do was to clarify the responsibility of the city of Newnan in terms of what our drainage responsibilities, maintenance and repairs were, and to also, and just as importantly, to clarify what the responsibilities of the homeowners were, property owners. Because if you recall over the years, as many of you have sat here for many years, we've had very similar situations come before this body, and it's a very slippery slope. Once you start making improvements on private property, you are opening the door to saying yes to those in the next request. And we've had numerous in front of this body, and the extent of service policy has allowed us to provide concrete information to the residents of the city of Noonan when we get these drainage complaints. And to be honest, we have much, much fewer people that end up appearing before this body asking these particular situations. Back whenever you asked us a few meetings ago to look and confirm this design, what we were confirming was, again, not your position that you may or may not want to do that project. What we're saying is that if you make any improvements in that ditch between those pieces of properties, it is going against our extent of service policy. So anything that happens in the ditch, we would certainly not recommend because we're going against the policy that this particular body has adopted. If you were to decide to put in that infrastructure to reroute the water, obviously, as Mr. Clark said, we're going to have to take a look at the cost estimate. That cost estimate's now, 5 or 6 years old. And obviously, we think there's going to be some change in that. But one thing that I want to bring to your attention, and I'm certainly, you know, I feel for the property owner and the concerns, but if you look at Mr. Clark's report, his agenda item, and it says the property owner has submitted video recordings of the ditch performing during significant rain events. Inspectors for the city have also made it a point to monitor the performance of the ditch from time to time, and at no time was the ditch observed as running full or having been overtopped, nor has the downstream pipe been observed flowing full. It is our position that the 2 lots to the ditch, adjacent to the ditch, are not adequately graded to drain. So my concern is, even if we divert what water is in that ditch, the same ditch that we have not observed leaving the banks, you're not solving the problem that she's been here asking for relief on. If those lots are not regraded, which I don't believe is the responsibility of the city of Newnan, I don't believe anything we do there is going to solve her problem.
Okay. Comments from council? All right. Action from any?
Thank you, Mr. Clark, and your department for looking into this extensively.
Okay, has this been conveyed to the property owner, or is this her first time hearing this?
I think we've had a history with the property owner from about 2008. And we have worked with her, and we've done what we could within our extended service policy. And then she's still asking for more relief from it.
Okay, but my question was, have you explained this to her in terms of the fact that we don't believe that doing what we can on the top side is going to solve her problem because of the grading on her property?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Okay. You're welcome to come forward and speak.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Annie Lou Wortley Warner, and I'd like to address the matter that the ditch is not the only problem. I explained to you all last time. I got water running from up off the top side of Cedar, coming down on the opposite side of my house. The ditch is not the only problem, and I expressed that last time. And I told you all that the water was coming from the back side of Ross's place, and it's not only the ditch. And I mean, we had videos, and if you show those videos, you'll see the severity of the problem. I sent videos, so I don't know why we can't see them. We need to see the video, then you'll know what I'm going through. I got a mess out there. Water is on both sides of my property. The ditch is not the only issue. And I need help. And I've asked for help, and I don't see why y'all talking about running the ditch on the private property. And last time, you all had planned to run the pipes in the ditch. I'm the one that asked for the cover. I'm the one that changed that. It wasn't that you all weren't going to put the pipe on private property. You all had planned to. So now I'm wondering what's the problem now. I got more than a ditch problem.
I don't recall us voting to run a...
It had been approved. Because you had talked with the property owners, and the property owner had okayed the situation, that the pipes were going to run through the ditch. And they came out there, and I had neighbors telling me that they didn't think that the pipe was going to do any good, was going to solve the problem. And that's why I decided to say, just try to cover. And in the meantime, it's serious because the little kids on the rear of me, they hang around when that water is flowing. I got videos, I wish you could see them, the severity of the water. And the little kids be out there on that bank. If they fall off in that bank, it's going to be a sad day. because that water is, I mean, the swiftness, the curve of that water is terrible. And I think you all need to do something. I don't see why I gotta live over there in that kind of problem. And then, I mean, because I'm on the other side of the tracks, it's not good. It's really not good. And I done pleaded, and what I got is not the only problem I have. The ditch not the only problem. So that's what I'm saying. If you all could help me and find out, if he would show those video, you would see what I'm dealing with. I brought them so you all could see them.
Can't take, yeah, we can't hear your voice, so we can't take comments from back there. Have we seen the videos?
Yes, I made the video.
Yes, we've seen the video.
I'm gonna have one conversation at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
Phillips?
Yes.
He had a video.
I'm Melanie Warner. I'm her daughter.
Just 1 second. Mr. Phillips?
Yes, we have seen the videos, and we certainly agree. And I think she just confirmed that the ditch is not her only issue. So that's why I made the comment. If we put in this $300,000 system, the only thing we're doing is taking less water out of the ditch. We're not addressing those other issues, which she's at the bottom of the drainage basin. So that's why I'm saying that the ditch, I mean, the pipe system at $300,000, and she just agreed, is not going to fix the situation.
Right.
It's a part of the situation. Because if you see the videos, you will see water flowing through the ditch. The water's not topped over, and it's flowing through fast. It's doing its job as a ditch does during the rain event. But you also see water pooling on each side of the ditch because the ditch banks and the lots have been graded, and it creates a pond on each side of the ditch. Am I correct, Mr. Clark? Correct.
But that's not the only problem, what I'm saying. The ditch is not the only problem. That's not the only water. I'm saying water coming down. What I'm saying, we have 6 streets out there and no vents. We have 4 vents on the 6th street. That's a problem. No vents.
Not enough drainage.
Not drainage. Not enough drainage. And with those little 4 drainage, how am I going to survive out there with all that water? And I wish you would show them the videos. I don't know why they can't see them.
Well, it's certainly easy to send the video to all
Absolutely.
the members of the council so we can see it.
Certainly is.
So we'll request that you do that, number one. But where we are is the cost factor of the project and doing that project, and it won't even fix the problem, is what I'm hearing.
Well,
You're telling me that.
if we got drains, I think that would help. And if you ran some of that water up to Tuxedo over to the drain on the other end of Dominic Street, I think that would be a help.
If you saw the video, you could tell what's going on because my mom lives kind of downhill. And if you look at the video, you'll see that all the water is coming, like she said, 4 or 5 streets coming downhill to her. The ditch did help, thank God. It did help, but on a bad, rainy, when it's really raining and a storm coming through, it's not enough drainage coming from those secondary streets that's coming down to our area. I had a video where it's showing that they are stopping up, but we don't have enough drainage. All that she is stating is that add more drainage to the other street, and that'll stop all the water coming to her area.
It would help. It would
That's
help.
what we're asking.
It would help.
Because it is definitely flooded. And with that being said, when it comes down to her house, it floods all the way up to the front porch. With that being said, it has caused a lot of water damage, which we have repaired over and over again, and it's getting expensive. We can't afford to keep doing it.
And I'm retired now. I've did before I retired. I'm retired now, and I can't keep putting it. I have hardwood floors, and they are beginning to look kind of rough. And it's just not, it's not good. It's not good.
So what we're asking council members is for you guys to please reconsider and look at the video, because like she said, it's the secondary street that's leading down to her. That's not causing the proper drainage before we get to her. That's the issue.
That's what I told them.
Okay, so that's what we need to look at.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we continue this discussion until our next meeting, get the opportunity to get the video sent to us, and let's take a look at that. And see what we
Certainly
got.
will.
And
Is
I would,
that objection from council?
no,
No?
but
Okay.
I do have one question.
Sure.
Because basically what she's saying is that this water is not just falling on the properties that are around her and draining to her, but that the water is draining from other streets that she feels are under, or that are not sufficient in the amount of
Right,
drainage.
right.
And that's
Right.
why she's getting that volume of water.
Correct.
Right.
So I would really like to have an answer to that about the other streets and how that flow is happening.
We'll certainly put you a diagram together that shows you the drainage basin, that shows you the streets, and it shows you all of the infrastructure that currently exists and where the water flows when it hits the ground.
Mr. Phillips, that was in the
That's great.
report. The
It is.
first report, I just didn't resubmit that to you again this time. It
Okay.
was in the last one.
Okay. So we'll
It does show you that. Be happy to give you information. I've met
Yeah,
Ms. Warner.
resend that to me.
I've been on site. It's not an easy fix. It involves multiple properties, sheet drainage. It's a big project.
Mr. Clark, if you could resubmit that with the videos, that'd be great.
We certainly will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thank you. That ends our regular agenda. I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Alexander to take us into an executive session for real estate and legal.
I move that we now enter into closed session as allowed by OCGA 50-14-4 and pursuant to advice by the city attorney for the purpose of discussing real estate and legal, and that we in open session adopt a resolution authorizing directing the mayor or presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with OCGA 50-14-4, and that this body ratify the actions of the council taken in closed session and confirm that the subject matters of its closed session were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second.
Motion second, we go into executive session for real estate and legal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.